Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for today's session, How MedTech Organizations Drive Engagement with Video Conferencing. My name is Olivia, and I am on the corporate webinar team here at Salesforce. Before we begin, I would like to cover a few quick notes about our webinar platform. Today's webinar will be available on demand after we wrap up and will be accessible through the URL you're on now. Please note, the slides will advance automatically throughout the presentation. To enlarge the slides, click the Enlarge Slides button located in the right-hand corner of your presentation window. Should you need technical assistance, click on the Help widget located in the bottom left corner of your console. We've also added an additional resource, which is available through the Resources window to the right of the slides. Lastly, we encourage you to submit questions at any time throughout the presentation using the Ask a Question widget at the bottom of your console. We will answer as many questions as we can at the end of this presentation. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Chris, and let's get started.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that introduction. So good morning or good afternoon, depending on what time zone and part of the world you are joining us from. Welcome to today's webinar titled, How MedTech Organizations Drive Engagement with Video Conferencing. Over the next hour, we will share insights and solutions on virtual sales. This webinar will share updates that will help MedTech organizations leverage technology to deliver results. Before we begin, Salesforce's forward-looking statement is a reminder that customers should base their purchasing decisions on products and services currently available. Here's the agenda for our call today. First, we will have an opportunity to meet our thought leaders. Next, we will share some trends shaping the MedTech industry. We will then hear best practices for secure video conferencing from SightCall, followed by what success looks like from Apria Healthcare. We will then walk through a solution demonstration. We will wrap up with time for a brief Q&A session. And as a reminder, please feel free to submit your questions at any point during the presentation via the Submit Questions tab. With that, let's take a minute to meet our speakers for today's webinar. Ben, over to you.
Hi, thanks, Chris. Ben Pinkerton. I'm Vice President of Product Marketing at SightCall, and it's really great to be here with you all.
Thank you, Ben. Manisha?
Hi, everybody. This is Manisha Nayak. I'm a Senior IT Director at Apria Healthcare, and looking forward to talk about our success story with the SightCall integration.
Thank you, Manisha. My name is Chris Salinas, and I'm Senior Director with our Global Healthcare and Life Sciences team focused on the MedTech industry. I'm really looking forward to our discussion today. Alap, over to you.
Thanks, Chris. My name is Alap Patel. I'm a Enterprise MedTech Overlay and SME at Salesforce. I work within the Solution Engineering Organization, and I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Thank you, Alap. Thank you all for taking time for your introduction, and thank you to our thought leaders for joining us today. Let's start off by reviewing some trends that are shaping the MedTech industry. While there are still many unknowns in the landscape, and it continues to evolve, one thing is certain. During this time, health innovation took a leap forward. We have seen progress in areas that were planned for the next 5 to 7 years occur in just a matter of weeks. We can all agree with the advances that we have seen, there is no turning back. One of those leaps forward was seen with the increase in telehealth. Healthcare providers have seen a shift to provide remote care and started to incorporate this as part of their daily practice. Telehealth has seen a twofold increase in deals and news mentions from the last quarter of 2019. And there have been more than $250 billion invested in telehealth companies in the first quarter of 2020 alone. And a recent survey of 500 executives in the healthcare industry found that 57% felt that telehealth had increased the quality of patient care. As patients begin to schedule in-person appointments once again, these findings indicate that not only are telehealth programs here to stay, but we have also seen that most healthcare organizations are planning to invest in expansion of these capabilities. It's no wonder why nearly 7 out of every 10 healthcare providers feels more prepared to use telehealth moving forward. And as a remote engagement continues to become a resource in providing patient care, we can say that patients will continue to expect this option moving forward, and healthcare providers are preparing for it. But just as the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the way healthcare is delivered, it too has changed how the MedTech industry operates. As we look to the future, we can turn to health crises from the past for insights. From the SARS health crisis in the early 2000s, we saw how prevailing technologies grew stronger in the aftermath and ultimately shaped e-commerce around the world. Along these same lines, MedTech industry will need to continue identifying their greatest opportunities in the wake of COVID-19. This could mean expanding investments in omni-channel capabilities or transforming customer engagement solutions to include remote or virtual engagement, as customers will continue to look for ways to obtain products and services using these options. In prioritizing these business needs accordingly, the MedTech industry is able to adapt to our new normal. As digital tech evolves and MedTech companies continue to adapt, acceleration will continue in 4 key areas. By being able to determine product utilization and portfolio adoption, having a risk-sharing and transparent partnership allows MedTech organizations to collaborate with their customers when changes in the market occur. Many have taken a consultative approach in discussing options to expand service lines, while vendor consolidation and contracting reviews occur. Developing risk-sharing partnerships with win-win scenarios will contribute in continuous growth, streamline operations, and deliver quality outcomes. Value-based outcomes and quality of care will continue to be at the center of discussions. However, by leveraging technology, MedTech companies are integrating remote monitoring and incorporating the use of sensors and wearables, as this allows a real-time capture of the impact devices have before, during, and after a procedure or therapeutic episode. As more MedTech companies continue to innovate and bring solutions to market, those that align with the entire continuum of care and develop a feedback loop that contributes to the creation of future devices will be able to create solutions that support a personalized therapeutic approach and continue to deliver value. With the rise in personalized medicine, MedTech companies have the potential to develop and tailor therapies with the best response and the highest safety margin to ensure patient care. Tech is already used in helping patients identify symptoms by enabling MedTech technologies to partner with surgeons in developing patient-specific implants, as well as leveraging this technology to plan for procedures to avoid unforeseen issues, all the while reducing complications and promoting a faster recovery. Virtual engagement, as we mentioned, was initially leveraged and seen as a way to stay connected with patients. This has evolved to become part of daily interaction for the MedTech industry as well. However, virtual engagement can be incorporated into several components beyond patient care alone. It may include medical education, video conferencing, and self-service portals, just to name a few. Sales for MedTech organizations also saw the need to evolve to a virtual setting in an effort to continue the sales cycle. Therefore, a solution has been developed that talks about transforming virtual sales for MedTech, truly focused on delivering a fully connected virtual selling experience to accelerate value and deliver faster business results, focused on 3 key areas. The first one, driving engagement beyond video conferencing truly from anywhere. Second, creating a complete customer experience. And third, closing more business with intelligent and actionable insights. Engaging remotely has been at the core of staying connected. At the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, MedTech organizations looked for ways to stay connected that was in alignment with their compliance and legal guidelines to protect patient information that was being shared. We were able to determine that by engaging virtually, we could in part continue to meet face-to-face without being in the same location. But the potential for virtual engagement will require much more than just a video call alone. Video conferencing alone is often confused with virtual sales. While one does not replace the other, virtual engagement is part of the virtual sales solution. Virtual engagement can continue to contribute to the sales solution overall. However, having the ability to provide a complete orchestrated experience goes beyond this. A complete orchestrated experience can encompass many different capabilities that can help guide, advance, and support a customer through the product sales cycle. Having a complete view of that customer allows MedTech organizations to have all resources readily available to have that connection with customers and deliver on product initiatives in a more effective and efficient manner. Virtual sales is most often seen as a platform to recommend and execute actions that drive engagement, adoption, and satisfaction for those who purchase and utilize medical technology. As mentioned, having this complete view of the customer offers the ability to have all resources readily available to have that connection and deliver on product initiatives. However, having these resources alone is only the beginning. We will ultimately need to bring all of them together. By leveraging insights and analytics, we can have a complete orchestrated experience that can drive engagement, adoption, and satisfaction as we are making sure that we utilize all data available for every interaction. For virtual sales, insights and analytics can be separated into 3 stages. First, aggregating data and preferences. This will allow MedTech organizations the ability to capitalize on each touch point with information that may be overlooked in a physical setting and quickly determine the message, content, and strategy with the highest and fastest return on investment. Next, we will need to personalize and predict by putting all of this data to use in a personalized engagement, all the while predicting behaviors and customer needs. Will allow us to apply these insights to key initiatives such as product launches, new partnerships, as well as competitive positioning. Finally, leveraging data will allow MedTech organizations to scale resources effectively by rapidly adjusting coverage models based on customer demand and personnel skill sets. We are able to remove geographical barriers and be readily available when and where needed. Virtual sales allows MedTech organizations the opportunity to empower sales reps and marketers to personalize ACT experiences all in one platform, allowing for influence from anywhere by consuming and presenting content when and where needed, integrating video conferencing that completes the customer engagement, all the while designating personalized journeys that contribute to successful encounters. As customer profiles are augmented beyond the in-person interaction, this will also maximize engagement resources by incorporating a schedule for case coverage, determining inventory at a moment's notice, and allocating clinical support, as well as training and event management. Having all of these resources connected with the ability to measure impact and refine as needed, MedTech organizations can leverage content and visit analytics that allow for a more predictable forecasting and targets according to segments. In building virtual sales as part of this engagement that goes beyond video conferencing, offering a complete orchestrated experience that is able to leverage insights and analytics will set MedTech organizations up for success in our new normal. With this, I'm going to turn it over to Ben, who will walk us through secure video conferencing. Ben, over to you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. For those of you that may not be familiar with SightCall, SightCall is a global leader in augmented reality-powered video assistance. Our platform really enables healthcare companies and providers to extend the reach beyond the hospital walls to provide really excellent care to patients at home or away. And through our deep integrations with Salesforce, we improve the patient access, provide visual assistance for medical devices, enable multi-care interactions, as well as reduce office visits with video-enabled healthcare. So while we work with Salesforce across a variety of vertical markets, including government, manufacturing, retail, insurance, and so forth, we have a lot of joint customer successes that include United Healthcare Group, Readiness, Envision Healthcare, and Apria, and more. And one of the key things that really you need to take into account when you're looking at a solution in healthcare for video is first and foremost the ease of access. And that's one of the things that SightCall brings really to the solution. You're using this tool in order to facilitate these patient to provider or remote expert to technician or provider to provider interactions. And the last thing you want is for that technology to get in the way of the conversation. So we provide a variety of ways for people to connect using the device that they prefer, whether that's through an app or through a web page without the need to install solutions such as using WebRTC technology. It's really a way to provide this very seamless experience where people can get connected and really get to the problem that they're trying to solve rather than trying to mess with the technology. It's also vitally important that the solution be stable and secure. And SightCall goes to great lengths to provide a very stable and secure platform that ensures that we conform to all of the necessary regulatory requirements and privacy requirements, so that you can have the confidence when you're having these conversations that the conversations and the information that you're communicating are secure and that you're meeting all the necessary regulatory requirements, including GDPR, HIPAA, of course, CCPA, and many others. And to do that in a way that's reliable, so that, once again, the technology doesn't get in the way. It actually is facilitating and helping you, solve the problem that you're trying to solve. Another key benefit to SightCall is our ability to rapidly launch, provision, and onboard new organizations. And really what this means is we can have a new organization up and running in a matter of hours to days, as opposed to, say, weeks or months that it might take for a typical deployment of a solution. And what this means is that you can immediately start to realize the value from that technology and start using it and hit the ground running right away. So how does SightCall work? At its core, essentially, you can think of it as facilitating communications between a remote expert connecting to a guest. And that guest can be a patient at home. That guest can be a nurse or a technician in the hospital, a clinician. It could be, pretty much anyone that needs assistance or needs the ability to communicate with someone and have a sharing of information or knowledge. And these connections are established very easily through a variety of different means. Generally an invitation is sent out to that guest. They simply get a click to connect link and they're in that session and begin communicating right away. But we can facilitate these communications through a variety of different modalities, which really means that it allows you to deliver this ability to have this rich conversation and communication happening at the point of need. So we can be integrated into, say, omni-channel, if you're using omni-channel within your workflow, or perhaps you have more of a self-service model and you're using the Einstein chatbot. You can have us integrated into that to help facilitate those communications. It can also work through email, SMS, and a variety of other ways. And then we can allow those guests that need to join and communicate with the expert to connect through either a native mobile app. Perhaps you've got a branded app that you want to provide a higher touch level of service with your organizations or your customers, or it can be through a web browser interface, including mobile devices, PCs, as well as wearables. So what does this do for you? One, it improves communication, because the expert can see what is actually going on and see that with their own eyes. That dramatically improves the communication, and it means that you're not relying upon the remote person, the guest, being able to articulate exactly what the problem is or what they're trying to understand. So it provides that improvements in communication, and that face-to-face interaction can also be used as a way of improving understanding and empathy, which is a critical component. When you're using this for other needs, like in the case of deploying a new piece of equipment or maybe a medical device in the home, it can help to reduce product returns by giving that extra level of support and service to that patient who's trying to use that device in home. They won't get frustrated because they don't understand how to use the device or they can't get it to work just exactly right. It allows for quickly resolving any challenging issues that might exist, which lowers the stress level for the patient and helps them to be more satisfied and happy with the solution that they're working with. That leads to improvements in customer service, of course, because it's a quicker way to understand and resolve the problem because you have that clear channel of communications. And it also can help reduce downtime. When you're talking about maybe an expensive piece of equipment that's used day in and day out within a hospital environment, the organization, the hospital, becomes very reliant upon that device, and they want to make sure that that is always available all the time. It's critical for them to deliver care. And so having the ability through just the tap of a link essentially to get connected with a remote expert to help troubleshoot and reduce those problems so they can immediately begin getting that equipment or that device back into service is critical. And for organizations that are delivering this type of care, this is a way for them to differentiate their offering. They can provide this high degree, high touch care that's available at a moment's notice to help ensure that the hospital, the clinicians are able to continue to deliver the care as needed. So this unlocks a variety of different use cases, as you can imagine. In the case of maybe deployment, for example, deploying or providing in-home healthcare medical devices, there may be some degree of pre-assessment or inspection that's required. Rather than having to dispatch a technician to go out and do that assessment in person, creates disruption for the patient. They have to make sure they're there at a certain time, and maybe scheduling is challenging. This helps to resolve a lot of those challenges where they can conveniently just click a link, join, have that remote inspection and session on the fly, and they can use some of the features built into SightCall that help to facilitate that. Maybe the medical device requires a certain amount of space in order for it to be placed appropriately. So using things like our AR-powered remote measurement tool allows them to measure the space and make sure it'll fit appropriately into the space that's needed. It can also be really important for onboarding and training. If you're maybe in an elder care situation, we're giving them a medical device so that they can have a better quality of life and stay at home and reduce the number of trips that they need to make into a hospital. But sometimes the technology can be intimidating for them. So by providing this ability for them to connect to someone and just explain, how does this work? How do I use this day in and day out? Really, it gives them the comfort they need and makes them more at ease with using the technology, which then, as a result, allows them to maintain that comfortable environment and using the medical device in their home. It can also be used for remote support and customer success, ensuring that when there is a problem, do we really need to dispatch someone to the site, or is it just sort of a minor problem that can be resolved through this live visual assistance call? And finally, we're seeing, increasingly these days, of course, with COVID, the ability to reduce the number or the need to dispatch people into environments and introduce them to unnecessary exposure risk. And so by having this ability, you can do a lot of the preliminary assistance and assessments that are needed before actually sending someone into that environment, which helps to reduce those unnecessary exposures. And so just to give you a snapshot, and I won't go through each of these, but there's a variety of tools that the remote expert has at their disposal when they're in a SightCall session that they can use for whatever the specific need may be. And that's one of the really big benefits of SightCall, is that it can be tailored to fit the specific workflow that's needed for that particular use case. So whether you need to maybe scan barcodes and have those recorded and stored into Salesforce, for example, or to be able to scan IDs to validate credentials or things like that, all of that is available, and these features can be independently enabled or disabled for the specific use case. So that makes it very, very easy for an organization to adopt this technology and really maximize the efficiency of these experts, and also help to provide the level of service that's needed. So with that, I'll turn it over to Manisha.
All right. Thank you, Ben, for setting the stage for the SightCall capabilities and tools and how powerful that we can use it. So again, this is Manisha. A little bit about Apria Healthcare. I wanted to just kind of give you the introduction. Apria Healthcare is a home healthcare product and service provider. We provide oxygen therapy, respiratory services, home delivery for the respiratory medicine, CPAP, non-invasive ventilator, and then infusion, that's also with the pharmacy product. We serve more than 2 million patients all over the 50 states. And we have branch more than 300 in all states. Our headquarters currently is in Lake Forest, So that's a little bit about the Apria Healthcare. About the applications, I have a multiple portfolio where we have my team supports the legacy applications. At the same time, we also have Java versus cloud technology with the integration with the Salesforce, and a lot of homegrown applications. So with the COVID coming up, and growing, as last year, we were challenged to provide the service for our respiratory therapists and some of our logistics folks to have a quick and right solution for telehealth. As telehealth being a new technology for the industry and especially for the home healthcare, we wanted to make sure that we build the right foundation on start something simple, nothing complicated, move fast, but at the same time be able to make the changes where it's needed. So we started compiling our key requirements. Our initial capabilities and the focus was the patient and employee safety. So we wanted to make sure that our Apria users initiate the call and video by using the email or text. That was one key requirement. We wanted to also make sure that our patients don't need to go through a lot of technical challenges, meaning no install, getting into any kind of technical roadblock. And we wanted to have a quick call, maybe if we need to transition to somebody else to follow up as a secondary, but just have ability for a call to help our patient and avoid our home visits. So we came back with our key groups of proof of concept that we wanted to focus. Primarily was RTs, which is a respiratory therapist who visits patients often. They go, multiple times a week to check on, their PAPs setups versus NIV follow-ups. And we also picked up some of the logistics because we wanted to make sure that they are able to support team, for the repairing of the instrument and so forth. So we came back with our group of folks who we wanted to do the POC, and then what is the platform, what is the requirements. As everybody knows, because of the PHE, rules were kind of loose, and anybody can use, phone app, FaceTime, Zoom, any other apps. So that's what our RTs have started to use early last year. But some of the challenges we face, some of the patients don't have phones, some of the phones, like Android, not working properly with what they wanted to do the video conference. We also, one of the key requirements, what we wanted to get to was a HIPAA compliant. We wanted to make sure, right now it was the PHE is still open and loose to say it doesn't have to be HIPAA compliant, but we wanted to make sure our key requirements meets our platform is that it's compliant. It supported multiple platforms like iOS, Android, and, even the desktop, because we wanted to make sure that if the patient, if the RTs don't have the laptop, phone or iPad not with them, then they're able to even do the calls on a laptop. And of course, WebRTC. So we wanted to focus on those and make sure that our Apria staff is able to work very easily with our patients. That was one of the key, focus that we were trying to do. Based on that, we kind of came up with what the considerations that we need to keep in mind and started our project with a platform assessment. We did look at multiple vendors and a platform and making sure that our goal and requirements and objectives are met by the right vendor. And so we, at that point, made sure that who is in industry out there, who we can, engage, and started to get some of the sampling of POC to work with them, saying that how that's going to help with Apria's current workflow. And we did go to a couple of vendors. And after that, we kind of agreed and worked very closely with the SightCall, and we chose SightCall as our partner. Worked with the Salesforce team, because Salesforce team has also been working with this SightCall implementation. And a couple of things that really came and made this decision very easily is their video kit. It's very robust. We wanted to, kind of a click, install, and good to go. And that was the SightCall. It was very simple. Their ability to enter, on the screen, it was a very major deciding factor. As you guys know, that when RTs are working, not able to go home to the patient, and they are working with patient on the call, giving the instruction on how to use PAP machine or NIV stats to read, it is very important that they communicate right and we record the right data also. So for that, we needed to make sure that, they are able to take the notes, they're able to take the call to, provide somebody else to do the second level of assistance. And we also wanted to make it a quick implementation. So SightCall being the, integrated very easily with the Salesforce platform, that was another major factor that we took that in consideration. And we wanted to, again, not to, burden anything on our patient and our user. Quick, easy way of install and use. We created some simple pages in a simple UI for our users to get going. We track all our calls. We track our resolution. We provide the reports to our bench, leaders to say, hey, these are the calls we've been taken. These are the resolutions that has happened by using the video. And this is where we are. And we are keep onboarding more and more of our users. A couple of key things about the SightCall again. It's very easy to implement. It was really a quick install. And then SightCall support team, they were with us end-to-end for implementation, even for the go live, and even after post-go live support. And that is one of the key, technical teams were always on the call to help us. We are going with adoption increasing, and we're trying to see how we can increase our adoption. Our RTs are very, very busy with everything going on. So sometimes they, don't want to change our new software or new way of doing this call. But people who are using, they are just loving it. And then we're just trying to get more of our RTs and other areas, to jump and start using this tool. So at this point, we are very happy with the integration. We are very happy that our patients are taking our call and they're using our tools, and we are able to solve their, issues on the tools and or any kind of readings on the NIV without visiting the patient at home. So we're kind of solving win-win situation for our users at the same time with the patient. Very pleased with the product, and we are trying to increase more and more usability within our company. So at this point, I like to share the video. It's just a little testimony from our users, how they feel and what they feel. I hope you guys enjoyed that.
I love using this tool. It gives you a sense of accomplishment and confidence for the patient.
A couple calls in and I had it down, and the patient, I walked them through, hey, you're going to get a pop-up on your screen. You just have to allow, and nobody's really had an issue with it. So it's been smooth sailing.
My experience has been the next best thing to actually being there with the patient.
The patient called in asking how they could return their CPAP. He was really irritated, and he said, well, there's just nobody to help. I said, well, we actually could do a video call after, maybe a 10-minute call. He said, I actually think I can do this now, and I'm going to use it tonight. And I called him this morning to see how it went. And he said it went great. And I feel like it helped me last night. And I asked him if he was going to return the machine. He said no.
And every patient I've had has been smiling and so happy to see me, and mentioned how it's so nice to see someone face to face and actually talk to them. So I think the mental health portion of it really helps too for them.
This saves a lot of our time, and we could focus on other duties.
This tool has made my workday easier, makes my job easier, makes me happier.
Okay, I think at this point I'm going to turn it to Olaf. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So over the next couple of minutes, I'm going to take you guys through a visual journey of how everything kind of works together. We're going to start by introducing a couple of our personas here. So obviously, most of my story is going to revolve around Cindy, who is an actual field sales rep within McKenna, which is a fictitious a MedTech company that I invented. Next, we have Dr. Tom Morris, who's specifically an orthopedic surgeon at United Hospital. And then last but not least, we have Nurse Stephen Smith, who's Dr. Morris's lead surgical assistant and manages the whole staff within his practice. So as we begin the story here, it's a typical Monday for Cindy. She's working from home today. She received a message from Dr. Morris's office that they want to do a total knee replacement for a patient later in the week. So once she receives a notification from the office, Cindy goes ahead and creates a surgical case within Salesforce. And as she does that, there's some insights that are now going to start popping up from Einstein, which is our AI platform. So first, Einstein mentions that this is the initial use of that product. So the United Hospital and Dr. Morris specifically have not used this product before in a patient. But the good news is that the product is on contract, right? So most of the commercials have already been taken care of. And then the third item there is that there's going to be some documentation required for the PO. So there's some special signatures that United Hospital requires so that they actually pay the invoice on time. And then the recommendation from Einstein is to schedule a follow-up with Dr. Morris to make sure that, if he has any questions, since this is the first time he's using it, we want to make sure that he's extremely comfortable with it. So she goes ahead and clicks the button there to schedule the discussion with him. And through the usage of SightCall, with the push of a button, Cindy is able to connect directly with Dr. Morris to discuss the details of the procedure. The first thing that Dr. Morris mentions is that he also recognizes that this is the first time United Hospital is using the knee replacement system, and he asks Cindy to follow up to make sure that everybody is trained up and ready for this procedure. And then the second thing that they talk about is, Dr. Morris shares some of the patient images of the knee, and together they determine that they're going to need a number 3 right tibia and femur, which is going to be the best anatomical fit for the patient. So once they complete that call, Cindy goes ahead and starts to map out her plan, right? So first, she goes ahead and uses voice to text to log that interaction that she had with Dr. Morris, and then there's some recommendations that get bubbled up. Specifically, we want to make sure that there's enough inventory level. Since this is the initial use of that product, we want to make sure that there's enough of supply of that at the hospital. So as we kind of move forward in mapping out, as she moves forward mapping out the plan, it does appear that there's an inventory shortfall there. So they don't have the right part she doesn't have it within her trunk stock. So she's got a couple of different options, right? She can either, meet up with a rep in an adjacent territory and do a trunk transfer. She could pick it up from a local depot, but she chooses option 3, which is to have it drop shipped directly to the hospital prior to the surgery. So that's what she does, and the courier is going to be in progress to be able to drop that product off. Moving along in her mapping exercise here, Dr. Morris had mentioned that the surgical staff has never used that particular knee replacement system. She had gathered all the different names and titles of the folks that Dr. Morris wanted trained, and she adds them to a learning journey. And what that's going to enable them to do is they're going to get a bunch of electronic learning links where they can review the products, they can review the surgical technique, instrumentation requirements, basically anything that they need to know for that particular procedure. It'll be able to teach them. So she goes ahead and assigns the entire surgical staff to that learning journey and schedules a meeting so that they can review the surgical plan together. Some time passes, right, and she finally receives a notification saying that, hey, everybody that you assigned to that learning journey has gone ahead and completed that recommended learning prior to that surgical procedure taking place, which is great. And now the next recommendation from Einstein is to schedule an in-service with Stephen Smith to answer any final questions. And through SightCall, she can actually initiate that call directly with him with the push of a button. And together they go through a presentation of the product. They review the instrumentation requirements, and basically Cindy is able to go through her whole mental checklist as to whether everything's ready to go for Dr. Morris's case. And in this case, in this particular instance, everything is ready to go. Some more time passes here. She gets a notification that the package was delivered. We have an integration with the actual courier system, so we know exactly who signed for it, where it is, and the person's name and who, and the location. All that high-level meta information is known to us, and it's tracked directly within Salesforce, which is great because now I think with the delivery of the product, we finally have all the different pieces in place. So the next recommendation here that she's going to accept is to send them a case readiness package. And what that's going to entail is it's going to contain all the different items completed, right? It's the training, which product was shipped, the serial number of the product, the arrival, the location in the hospital, who received it when. It also contains the names and titles of the entire surgical team, as well as all the resources that were provided to train them up. So everything's all set to go here. And the day of the procedure arrives. And so the great thing here is that Cindy's able to connect directly to the procedure via SightCall. Because United Hospital uses the connected OR, she's actually able to not only stay virtually scrubbed in while they're prepping the patient, but she actually stays present during the entire procedure. And in this particular case, it comes in handy because they actually had a little bit of an issue with some of the screws. They need to use a couple of extra screws during the procedure, and Cindy's able to capture that directly and make sure that they add that to the invoice as well. So the only thing left, the procedure goes really well, and the only thing that's really left to do is to make sure we gather those electronic signatures so that we can send out that purchase order later. So she goes ahead and grabs the electronic signatures from Dr. Morris and his surgical staff. Once the signatures are completed, Einstein recommends sending them a post-surgical package, which includes, the serial number of the device, the time, the duration of the actual procedure, the surgeon's name, et cetera, et cetera. The hospital can then use that to add it directly to their EMR system for their own tracking purposes. And now everything is all set to go. So now we have the correct contract number captured within that invoice. We've got the patient's name, tracking numbers. Everything's all set to go. And now everybody's going to be happy. The patient's happy, the hospital and the doctor's happy, and McKenna's happy because they're finally going to get paid for the procedure. Some time passed, a couple of weeks passed, a couple of months passed. Because of the great experience that Cindy was able to provide Dr. Morris even remotely, they've become a heavy user of that MK knee replacement system. A couple of things happen automatically for her. One, because of the higher forecasted volume of procedures, the inventory thresholds are adjusted, right? So her trunk stock is automatically adjusted to make sure she has enough of all the different parts that are required to meet all those different surgical cases. And then last but not least, because Dr. Morris is an orthopedic surgeon and there's a new product launch coming up for a robotic surgery system, he's targeted directly with some invitations to join some information sessions. Because we have a full customer 360 and we know exactly the nature of his practice and what he does, we're able to target some of these new product launch messages directly to him so that he can respond at his own convenience. And then in conclusion, right, I think as you guys saw as I took you through the story, using Salesforce and SightCall, Cindy was able to transform her business using that 360-degree view of United Hospital and Dr. Morris. And without leaving Salesforce, without having to log into other third-party applications or making voice-only calls or exchanging emails or faxes, Cindy was able to engage directly with not only Dr. Morris, but his entire surgical staff directly. She was able to interact with live inventory data to make sure that the right product was made available at the right time. And for the first time, what we're seeing here is through a combination of the Salesforce and SightCall platform, we're seeing all of our commercial teams at McKenna Health swarming and supporting Cindy where she chooses to work. And it really doesn't matter whether she's working at home or in the field. And ultimately, this makes the relationship between those surgeons and the field reps stronger than ever. Thank you so much, and we'll pass it on.
Thank you very much, Ala. Great demonstration of what's possible here. So we'll now call all of our thought leaders back. We're going to have our open discussion and Q&A on the topic that we discussed during our webinar. So with that, I'm going to welcome back Ben, Manisha, and myself, Ala. We have a couple of questions already here that have come in with regards to some thoughts and what folks on the call would like to hear more about. If you still have not submitted your question, please feel free to do so through the Q&A tab. We'll try to get to as many questions as possible here. So let's start off with the first one. Question goes to Ala. And the question reads, can this solution apply to support my disposable product business? I think you did a really nice job presenting the implant world. This question is more specific around disposable products. What are your thoughts here, Ala?
Oh, absolutely. So again, we chose the surgical model for the storyboard because it's one of the more complex sales, right? But when you start talking about disposables, then you're actually dealing a lot with the agreed to purchase volumes and revenue levels. So yes, you can absolutely use the same solution to be able to manage a disposables business. And in fact, we've worked with a company that distributes disposables. And they're actually going to be in the process of taking a look at the solution as well. Obviously, the requirements are going to be a little different. You're not going to necessarily need to connect directly with them over video, but at the same time, your rep still needs real-time information as to what assets are placed where and what their consumption levels are with disposables, and we can do that directly within our platform.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ala. Let's go next question here. We've got a question for Manisha. So what would be your next step to expand beyond your current virtual engagement development? So where would you focus and why?
Sure. So as we roll, our first focus right now is finish up, to make sure that all our respiratory therapies and logistics teams are all up and board and using this tool and, feel comfortable. And after that, our next use case is going to be our drivers. So we have more than 1,200 drivers all over the state who is dropping the product or picking up the product and who are also in contact with the patient with, maybe they're not the therapist, but they still work and contact with the patient to do certain things. So we want to avoid that visit. They will be still dropping off. But if you can allow this tool to make them offer how they can contact and provide the solution for the patient, I think that will be our next user group that we are focused on.
Fantastic. Thank you, Manisha. Mm-hmm. We'll go to our one more question here that we've got. This one's for Ben. Can you share a little bit more on how SightCall can enable sales teams with, say, in-servicing or demo product presentations?
Yeah, happy to. That's actually a really good question because one of the things that we found is that just having the tool available sometimes doesn't always affect the change that you're trying to accomplish. Really, there's a whole process around, change management and making sure that you get that organization and your team up to speed and understanding how to use the tool, what's the right way to use it, and more importantly, when not to use it. And we actually have an organization within SightCall, our team within SightCall, that's specifically focused around success. And really their job is to come in and understand your team's business goals, how you operate on a day in and day out basis, and help adapt and devise the workflows that you need in order to be successful using SightCall. So I think it's a really great service that we have available that really just helps make sure that everyone is on board. They know how to use it. They know the appropriate time to use it. And also work with them in devising the most successful ways to use SightCall. And that's something that we provide to our customers that really we've seen make a really big difference for them, their success using it.
Fantastic. That's a great point. Thanks, Ben. So I've got one topic here that I'd like to cover with the entire panel. This is more of an open discussion, but let's talk about where you would start, right? Organizations are calling in here. They're trying to listen here on our webinar to learn kind of key takeaways, best practices. A lot has been shared here, but let's say somebody's just starting on this journey. Where would they start first? And Manisha, maybe you can kick us off here. What sort of advice, I guess, would you give somebody that's just starting on this remote or virtual engagement for customers and staff and whatnot?
Sure, I can start. So I think the focus or goal should be first, come up with a use case, but start small, start slow, and be flexible, right? You don't want a long implementation going on for months and months. The technology, is changing so fast, so we wanted to have quick implementation, get, use case and a team ready, quick POC, and get the users start to use, and then enhance as we go forward, right? So, and that's exactly what we did here at Apria. So we started with a small group. We did go with the POC for the 25 people, got their feedback, tweaked our, integration a little bit here and there, added more training and documentation for our users to provide the, whatever that they need to, make a patient integration simpler. And we just went live with our rest of the folks that we are, trying to make more and more tricks to it. So I would say start small, be flexible, and, able to take this change and improve upon.
Love it. Love the flexibility piece. That's always really important, right, as you're kind of bringing in that new change within the organization. Thanks, Manisha.
Exactly.
Ben, how about from you, from the SightCall perspective? What would be some of that advice that you give somebody just starting down this path?
Yeah. So first of all, reiterate what Manisha had said. It is important to make sure that you stay focused and not, you don't want to try to boil the ocean right out of the gate. You want to keep the scope very focused and achieve, a first sort of execution on a specific use case and get that working first. Once you've done that, it becomes a lot easier to move to other segments of the business and try to expand. But I think what's also really, really important is to really understand what is the business goal you're trying to achieve, and what is it you're trying to improve upon, and how are you going to measure that? And that's one of the things that we try to understand is what exactly are you trying to improve upon? What is the metric that you're going to measure the success by? And then let's devise a workflow that makes sure that you're solving the problem and also improving upon whatever your KPI is for that specific need.
Love it. That's a great point. Stay focused, have your game plan ready, be flexible, building off of Manisha's feedback here as well. Alap, what advice would you give somebody that's just getting started on this journey?
So there's a couple of things that I would just make sure you guys keep in mind, right? Your field teams, your sales reps have probably spent years curating the relationships with your customers. So just keep that in mind, right? If you're going to go with a virtual sales solution, they need to be able to do everything within their job, whether they're working like on-site or remotely, right? In the example of the storyboard that I provided, right, Cindy's able to do her entire job, whether she's working in her kitchen or within an office within a hospital. So please keep the customer and the relationship that you have with them at the center of everything that you're going to architect, right? You don't want your field teams to feel like, they're having to cut corners just because you're in the middle of a lockdown and a pandemic. And then the other item I would ask everybody to keep in mind is that these changes in the industry are here to stay, right? And it's not just the surgical sales, it's not just disposable sales. It doesn't matter if you're selling tires or if you're selling consumer products. Every company is going to need to be ready to pivot and have a hybrid selling model. So more changes are coming in the future, but I would recommend everybody just keep that front and center.
Great advice from our thought leaders here on this panel. We've got a couple of minutes here as we wrap up. So I want to thank our panel of thought leaders for leading our webinar today. Ben, Manisha, Alap, thank you very much for participating and providing these great insights. With that, should you have any questions and would like to learn more about any of the topics that we covered today, please feel free to stop by our website, Drive Commercial Excellence with a Unified Digital Platform. Thank you all very much for joining our webinar today. Greatly appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye now.